Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and the Rich.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. I'm the Rich. This with Adam Trader. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trends, all the work from homers out there. Today we have Marni Jameson on the show. She's a nationally syndicated home columnist and the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Downsizing The Family Home, What to Save, What to Let Go. Also author of the new book, What to Do with Everything You Own to Leave the Legacy You Want. From the Heart Estate Planning for Everyone, whatever your financial situation. Marni Jameson, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I think this is a topic that I love because it is very relevant to working from home. It's very relevant to the home. You are an expert, not necessarily on the business side of things, but making your home a comfortable environment so that it is easier and you can be more efficient working from home. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your tips for, let's say, organizing the home, or even make the case on why people should downsize their home? I would think with more people working from home, they want to move to a bigger place with a home office. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think you've got to make where you live work, right? So there are so many ways to modify a space to make it do more. And if anything, the pandemic has really taught us how to transition spaces. Some people did it more beautifully than others, but how to carve out workspaces that you never thought could be workspaces. Or if you, suddenly the kitchen table is now the schoolhouse and you're trying to work down the hall and in a bedroom, you figure out ways to make it work. And I think that one of the things that we all need to do, regardless of whether we're forced to work from home or just temporarily work from home or work from home, and work outside of the office, whatever, is streamline everything you own to make sure everything you have is something that you need, use, and love, and is at your fingertips. So that's my sort of top line advice for everyone. I don't want to live with less. I like to have comforts. I like to have beautiful things. But I do think there's a time that you need to let go of things when they've lived their useful life. You need to look objectively at everything, put your hands on it and say, is this going to serve me going forward? Or am I just hanging on to it for some not so great sentimental reason? So really be critical and ruthless as you go through your things and surround yourself with things that will support you and nurture you and know more.
So to clarify, when you say downsizing one's home, you're not saying move to a smaller house. Instead, you're saying get rid of, downsize and the things you have. Get rid of things like, as you said, have really no use in the home anymore.
Yeah, and to be fair, the downsizing is a great word, on a search engine, but I like to call it right sizing. My publishers kind of ran with downsizing, and that's great because a lot of people are doing that. But I think it's really right sizing, really making everything in your home relevant to who you are right now. And if you're no longer raising toddlers and your kids have graduated from college, it might be time to let go of the Lego set and the trike. So it's really about cleaning out your house for every phase of your life to making sure you're living for now and for the future. Because if you hang on to everything that you've ever had or done, and in a working situation, and I've worked from home for years, you just can't hang on to every file and trophy and work photo that you've ever, accomplishment you've ever had. So it's important to really stop living in the past, because if you do that, it'll rob you of the future.
That leads me to my next question. Okay, you decide that you want to get rid of trophies, for example. So this is what This happened with our household, with my parents' household, the household that I grew up in. So after my son was born, my parents came to visit because they wanted to see their new grandchild. And my mom came with all these suitcases from our house where I grew up in Houston. And in the suitcases were all these trophies that I won when I was like 6 years old. And all sorts of certificates, medals, trophies, toys, stuffed animals, autographed basketball. She just brought as many suitcases as Southwest would allow her to bring free of charge, and said, "Hey, look, I've got these great presents for you." And she just dumped them on us, and and wanted to get them out of her sight. So that's going to be the next question. It's, do you just do what my mom did and just dump it to the next generation? Or do you just throw them in a dumpster, literally? Or is there a market, say, on Craigslist or some of these online selling websites for such items?
I'm cracking up because your mom did the right thing. There are several other ways of handling our same situation, but I always say that to parents, you are not a repository or a storage locker for your kids. And, they move into an apartment and they want you to keep their Boy Scout uniform and their Little League trophies and all of that. And, maybe for a couple months, but at a point you're like, okay, you're out of the house now. I am not your storage locker. And you either give them 30 days to decide what they want to do with it and dump it, or you have it UPS to their house, or you bring it in a suitcase and you say, here. But I do think there's a trap that people fall into. And beware, you have kids coming up, you'll do this too. You'll save every little, sweet memento from their life, and pretty soon you can't turn around. So there's a time and a place to hold on to these things, and a time to return them to their rightful owners and move on. I have in my books lots and lots of tips for how to get rid of things that are no longer useful to you, but still useful. No offense, but your trophies are probably not useful to anybody but you.
My wife agrees. She certainly agrees with that.
You didn't convince her for a trophy room?
Well, I told her, I said, look, it'll give our son inspiration as he's growing up. He'll be like, oh, wow, I need to get this many trophies.
That you can make that decision. I'm not here to judge, but yeah. So I think that there are certainly places on Craigslist. And I just found a great new, it's been around, but I just discovered it's called the Buy Nothing Project. And it's neighborhood communities on Facebook that put things out. It could be like...
my wife does that.
Yeah, it's a great, I got rid of some candles. I don't like vanilla, the smell of vanilla. And I had all these vanilla candles that someone gave me. And I just said, hey, anybody want them? And it's a porch pickup. And they said, oh, I'd love them. They swing by, they get them. And it's, you can do clothes, you can do leftover, pots and pans. If you like in my book, Downsizing the Blended Home, when two houses become one, I got remarried later in life. And my husband, I had been married before, and he had a full set of pots and pans. I had a full set of pots and pans. We don't need that many pots and pans.
I bet I know which pots and pans were kept.
No. Well, you might be surprised. He was actually a widower, so his late wife was a wonderful cook, which I am not, and he really trumped me in every way in the kitchen, but in all the kitchen goods. But my furniture was better.
I will say if anybody's thinking about the Buy Nothing groups, the one thing that my wife's complained about with those is they limit it geographically so much that a lot of times, like, we were in kind of a larger area because there weren't enough people in the Facebook group yet. And a lot of people wanted our stuff who didn't live in quite the same economic situation as us. But then when more people joined, they kind of like restricted the area to get the numbers down. And it became kind of just the wealthier people were still in the group, and they lost the lower economic group who were benefiting from that. So that's just one warning I have to people. But how do you, speaking of, the pots and pans thing, and with Naratia's trophies coming in, what are some tips for the conversations that you need to have to say, like, hey, I don't want your junk in the house, but not say it that way?
Yeah, he said, "How come it's your belongings and my stuff?" And sometimes it wasn't even stuff. But yeah, it's you have to be very delicate. I really was humbled in this project, or in this process when we were married 6 years ago, and we're in our 50s, early 50s at the time, and I was a live-in home stager. I had pared down. I was living in homes that were challenged properties, trying to stage them with my furniture to sell, and I was really good at it. I was a sought-after home stager. I'm like, I got this. I'm the home design columnist. I'm really good at decorating. You don't worry about it. I got the house covered. And he's like, whoa, wait. I don't want to feel like I'm living in your house. And I was like, oh, that was like the ice bucket challenge, right? On my head. But he was right. He wanted his things too. And you really have to, gosh, it's not about whose chair gets there. It's really about whose feelings are involved. And so you have to take a step back, in my case, a couple steps and a few shots of something, and then go, okay, let's try to figure this out. And the recommendation that we employed, and I recommend, pick a few things that would really just break your heart to get rid of. Like he has an oak top, roll top desk that it was his first major purchase when he graduated from law school. It's really ugly, but he really loves it. So that's a must. And I have some oil paintings from California where I grew up. He's from Pittsburgh, not crazy about them, but we keep those. So these are the things that are meaningful, and you tag those, and then everything else, figuratively put it out on the lawn, and then you shop your stuff and decide what fits the new you, and the combination that you have going forward. And you be honest. You don't need two blenders. Who's got the better blender? Just be objective about it. Now, I'll be honest. We lived for about a year with two coffee makers on the counter because I really liked mine and he really liked his. So we didn't do this perfectly, but eventually mine broke. And so there we were.
I want to go back to these items in your book, not just in your book, but you can talk about it here. And this is the New York Times bestselling one. What are the most popular items that people get rid of or want to get rid of? We brought up trophies and medals. I think those are extremely popular, like you said, after kids go away to college or start working in their 20s. And I think another good one is books. I've moved many times in my life, and I ended up just throwing out the books because I didn't have time to sell them. And I said, I don't have place in my car, and they're heavy. They take up so much space, especially textbooks. So I just ended up throwing them out. So what are the most popular items to get rid of? And on top of that, are there ways to make money off of them? So let's start with the trophies. Like, is there a way you can make money by selling trophies?
Ooh, I don't know about if they're personalized, if there's really much value in those, unless they're made of some meaningful metal, which isn't very common. I wouldn't say so. Now, there is a market for things like old yearbooks, which you might find interesting. People do buy those because once in a while, that class of 1988 has a celebrity in it and somebody wants to see.
Yeah.
So there are people that will buy those kinds of things, which is odd, but fine, have at it. If there is historic value, there may be a historical society for in your community, if it's a relic of your community, or if there's something like an old wedding dress, you might consider donating it to a theater's costume department. Those are the kinds of things people like to see go into good hands. Old clothes that are period clothing. There are places for that. But in terms of making money, you can certainly try on Craigslist. Your furniture is one thing that really goes pretty quickly. But I think that there's a website or a service you can use. Name's escaping, but it's when you give something to donate, when you donate it, it tells you how much it's deductible. It's worth in your tax deduction. So that's sort of my swift way to get rid of things. Clothing, sifting through your clothing, books, all that stuff. I itemize it. It's deductible. That's the name of it. And it's a program you can use. You put in, 15 textbooks, and it'll say, 50 cents each. I don't know. The encyclopedias are completely worthless. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you donate them, it may make you feel better. They may end up dumping them, but you can deduct at least a little bit. And
like $50.
Maybe, yeah. But I think that some people really have to get over the notion of value. Men in particular, or women too, but I've had men say, I have all these tools, $40,000 worth of tools in my tool shed, and my kids don't want them, and I know they're worth a fortune. Well, you paid a lot for them, but people don't use those today as much, and they hire out. Millennials don't want to, be in the garage, and so you're not going to it's going to be really hard. You can try to sell them on Craigslist. They're not very easy to ship, so it's not going to be something you'll do on eBay or something that you want to have mailed to someone because they're heavy. But those might just have to be scrapped.
Oh, that's harmful to hear.
It's hard to hear, but I think.
But that's from somebody who wants tools, so that's.
So there's Buy Nothing project opportunity, but I think what I like to say is to start with the end in mind, because letting go of things is hard. I totally get that. But if you start by picturing, let's say you're in your work environment and just visualize clean surfaces, a cupboard that you open that's only the wonderful supplies that you need. Just the storage is just perfectly aligned with what your storage needs are. There's no excess. There's no clutter. And that's true of everything in your home. You visualize what you want your home to look like, and then you back into it. Like, what is it going to take for me to get there? Okay, I'm going to have to get rid of some stuff. And then you go there. So you start with envisioning parking both your cars in the garage. Some people can't do that. Or you envision, opening your linen closet and having all your sheets in sets with a ribbon around them. So you're not looking for the bottom sheet among, for the king bed among the twin sheets, you get it together. And it's so much nicer to live like that. And I think if you have that vision, then you can get there easier.
So in your time helping people with this and dealing with downsizing, how do you help people, or how can people get over the mental hurdle of, I've been holding on to this for so long because I want to give it to my kids, even though like in the back of your head, my kids are never going to want this. Or, I've had this for so long, I can't imagine not having it, even though it's junk. But the stuff that you need to get rid of, but you're not quite mentally ready. How have you seen people get over that?
There are a couple ways, and it's a great question. It's exactly over the heart of the plate with what people are dealing with. So one thing I like to explain is attachment theory. And this goes back, it's also called endowment. It goes back to when you were a kid, and you've seen little babies, you have a little one, he probably got attached to a teddy bear or a blanket or a doll or something. And my girls did that. And that's a security object. So when mom or dad aren't nearby, they can hang onto their blanket and find all that security and love in place of you. And it's really healthy because it lets you cook dinner and get, cleaned up. But we don't graduate very far from that. We just change things out and get more sophisticated about it. We get attached to everything we have. It has a story. We remember where we bought it. We remember what we wore it to, what event it was. Men get attached to their cars, women get attached to their wedding rings. I mean, these are really important objects to us. And it's all psychological. It's just finally, if you understand it's the emotion that you're endowing this stuff with meaning, and it's just stuff. If you realize, there I go, endowing stuff with meaning, it doesn't have meaning, you can start to untangle that. So I like to say, if you're trying to remember a parent, say you lose a parent, which is awful. I've lost both my parents, and you want to hang on to everything to remember them by, but when everything is important, nothing is important. So you pick a few things. I have my mom's pearls, and I have a painting that she loved that hangs in my kitchen that used to hang in hers, but I don't have everything she had. It would be crazy. Try not to hang on to everything, and they will carry you a long way. If you have, really fond memories of a vacation, just to, put one photo in a scrapbook, but don't have all 50 photos. So I guess it's about being super selective. Another tip that I find really helpful personally is, there's getting rid of stuff, and then there's temporary, trial separation. So put everything, it's in the maybe pile, like things you're not sure if you can live without. in a box and put it in out of sight, put it in the garage, put it in the attic, put it somewhere you still have it, but it's not under your nose. And in 6 months, make a note on your calendar to go out and say, have you thought of any of these things one time? And if you haven't, then let it go, right? So that's a temporary separation is a really great way of deciding whether or not you want to live without something. And if you haven't gone after it in 6 months, you can probably take it to the Goodwill at that point.
As far as pets go, let's talk about pets, because would you recommend downsizing your pets or have more pets? Or
oh my gosh, no. Do not go your pets. No. I love it. I have 3 dogs, and I have a daughter in vet school, and we used to have horses, and I'm a huge fan of animals. So no, don't downsize your pets. But you could streamline. You don't have to have 6 leashes for each one. Have the one good leash for each animal.
And how about for those working from home? What tips do you have if there are pets in the home?
Oh, well, it is a challenge because they want to bark and they want to go out and they, so my husband and I discussed this during COVID. We both worked from home primarily. He's in law and I'm a writer, so I'm home a lot writing, but I would have to remind him that we are the masters of the dogs and not vice versa. So try to, if you can, establish a pecking order, which is we'll go out when I'm ready to take you out. And so there's that. I think there are certain things that I really, for all the horrible things the pandemic wrought, I think it did give everyone a hall pass when they're at home working and the dog goes off or the lawnmower starts or the delivery man comes setting their pets off. Everyone kind of rolls with it now. We're like, oh yeah, we get it. We work from home too. We know it happens. So I don't know. I don't mind it. It's life. I think it's totally acceptable.
All right. So now I have to ask a personal question for myself here. We have 4 kids. How on earth do people downsize while their kids are still in the house and convince the kids that it's time to give things up?
Gosh. Well, you're going to have a downstream effect. So that's
right.
one.
But the problem is now we're way downstream.
I think it's really helpful if they can see how their things are benefiting others. So if there is any way you can show them that maybe there's a domestic shelter where a woman's living, in hiding and with her kids, and they had to leave everything and they don't have the things that they used to find comfort in. And you can find a way to show them that their things are now helping other kids and they can enjoy them even more than your kids can. And they start to appreciate at a very young age the strength and value in charity. I think that's really, really powerful. And rather than just giving it away to some, dumping it off at the Goodwill, which may be an option, but you take it to a place where you really know it's going to help kids. If there's a direct connection that they can see, that would be really strong. Maybe it's through a church, or maybe it's through your local, like we have something here called Shepherd's Hope, where they help families who are, going through tough times. There's just maybe a way they can connect with a family. That would be wonderful.
Marni, thank you so much for joining us on the Work From Home Show. The website is marnijameson.com. That's Jameson. To all our listeners, check us out at workfromhomeshow.com. Leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you use. Our email is hello@workfromhomeshow.com. If you want to get in touch with us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. And until next week, keep on working from home.